Hi, this is MissMalini, and today I'm here to talk about a cause that's very close to my heart, and I'm here with Neerja Birla, who is the founder and chairperson of Mpower with an M, which I love because MissMalini. Thank you so much for having me here today.
My pleasure, Malini, to be here with you.
So it's really amazing what you've done, and let's talk a little bit about the facility and how you came up with it and what happens here.
So basically, we started this particular facility in May of last year, though we launched Mpower in Jan. So we're a little over a year old. And we are offering lovely services like psychiatric as well as psychological services for children, adolescents, young youth. I mean the youth, the young people, even the older generation, for anybody suffering from mental illnesses. And so yeah, we're trying to sort of help them through it and make them feel good about themselves and ensure that each one of them, each one of us can be productive and give back to society in a meaningful manner.
So let's talk a little bit about the kind of issues that a lot of people in India have. We don't even acknowledge the concept of mental health and what does it mean to people, and what are the kind of issues that you find?
These days, one is just dealing with so much, with such a stressed life that very often, we may think that it's a simple anxiety or just a low mood, but it may be something medical. It could be something clinical. So it could range from anxiety to feeling low and having depression, to the more serious ones, which are like more psychotic episodes, schizophrenia, bipolar. So it's an entire gamut, an entire range that we sort of see over here.
Bollywood has started coming out and talking about a lot of these issues.
Which is so nice, actually. Yeah. It's really nice. It's really good.
But do you think there's still judgment on that? Like, do you think people were surprised to hear, like, somebody who's so rich and famous? People say,
absolutely.
Oh my God, Deepika Padukone, you have everything. How can you say that you have a mental illness? So how do you think the reaction has been?
So that's exactly the myth. The myth is that just because you have everything, which equals to money, power, fame, you should be happy. But money, power, fame do not equate to mental well-being. And you could be unwell, you could be mentally ill, which normally happens because of a chemical imbalance in the brain, a neurotransmitter imbalance. Anybody could have that. It's nothing to do with having everything materialistic in life. I mean, it's like saying diabetes. I mean, anybody could have diabetes, right? I mean, it has nothing to do with the fame or the money. Similarly, anybody could have a mental illness. We're trying to really normalize it. The message we're trying to give across is that it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay not to seek help.
Well, that's a very good message.
Yeah, so we're really trying to do that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have this question, am I depressed or do I have a greater illness? And how do you identify that, and how can they get help for that?
So actually, I mean, there are certain red flags. I mean, sometimes we all go through different moods, we all go through ups and downs, we all have coping mechanisms. When it is within normal parameter, I think it's fine, because I think we all are on a spectrum. Some days are good, some days are not so good. And if you're able to cope with it and it doesn't interfere with your daily functioning of life, I think it's fine. It's not a red flag. But the minute it starts interfering with your daily functioning, that's a red flag. So say for example, you just don't feel like having a bath for days. That's a red flag.
Okay.
You don't feel like stepping out of home. That's a red flag. Normally the activities that you would enjoy doing, you suddenly don't enjoy it so much. You don't want to meet your friends. You want to be isolated. You want to kind of be by yourself. Then that's a red flag. So there are certain red flags, and I think when you see that, that's a pattern that you're following, then you really need to seek help, because then it only gets worse.
And they say for a lot of illnesses that we have physically, that there's a lot of preemptive things that you can do. You can exercise, you can eat better. Is there something like that for mental health as well?
I think so. So there is something called positive psychology, which is a stream of, it's an upcoming new stream, and that pretty much talks the same thing, that you need to have robust mental health. And things like resilience, emotional intelligence. These are very important qualities that one can cultivate in order to have robust mental health. And we are also trying to kind of say that, let's focus on the preventive. So indulge in things that will give you mental relief. It could be anything. It could be exercise, for example. I mean, that's a great stress
a hobby
buster.
Of some kind, anything.
A hobby. Yeah. Do things that you would enjoy doing. And I think the main thing, according to me, I personally believe the main thing is to develop good coping mechanisms.
Why do you think it is that, especially in India, like parents, especially at a certain demographic, will be, even if my child has a mental illness, I don't want to say, or what do you think is the underlying reason?
I think it's because they feel that it's a personal failing. I think as parents, we tend to feel that, if my child is suffering, then it's something to do with me. My upbringing has gone wrong. I wasn't there for the child.
Or log kya kahenge sort of
log
thing.
kya kahenge,
Yeah.
you know, because it's always that what are people going to think about it? And I think that comes because one thinks that it's one's fault,
Yeah.
you know, and we all feel vulnerable, right? You don't want to admit that you could be wrong, and then if you're thinking that you're wrong and you're at fault, you don't want to accept that situation.
Right, absolutely. And I think at the end of the day, all mental health kind of boils down to something that's making me unhappy, something that's not fulfilling me. So is there, I know there's no secret sauce, but what do you think is the secret to happiness?
To answer the first part of your question, or what you said, is that I think mental health and mental illness doesn't necessarily mean you're unhappy actually. You could be very happy, but you could still be having a mental illness.
Okay.
Because, like I said, it's just a neurotransmitter imbalance, and it could be genetic. I could be born with it. When I'm exposed to certain situations which are high pressure, it might just kick in.
Right.
So I just may be a very happy individual, but I still may have a mental illness.
And all mental illness isn't depression. They're all different kinds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Depression is one of them, and one of the symptoms is having a low mood, but doesn't mean that you're unhappy because of that. You know?
So how does it work? Like if someone's watching and says, "Oh wow, I need some help. I'd like to go." What's the process?
So it's very simple. One can just walk into the center, which is at Hughes Road, or we have a website, www.empowerminds.com.
With an M, yeah.
You can log on to that. You can call and take an appointment. So, yes, you must reach out. If you need help, you must reach out.
Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you, Malini. Thanks
for
very
watching.
much. So if you like this video, like it, share it, and subscribe it.